Morning Artesia Radio Show, and County Commissioner John Henry is here. Good morning to you.
Good morning, sir. How are you?
Oh, I'm doing great. Jeffrey came in and I said, John's going to be here now. What is he today? Do you wake up with that thought?
No, because I answer the phone and take whatever's thrown at me. So I'm a commissioner, I'm a mayor, I'm a realtor, I'm whatever that question is on the phone.
You're ready to take it on.
To take it on. Yes, sir.
So how was the 4th of July?
It was wonderful. Yes, I got to spend some time with my family, and it's really nice. My daughter's back in town, and so she'll be here till mid-August, so we try to take advantage of that as much as we can and hang out and do stuff before she's got to go back to college. I'm sure lots of moms and dads are out there doing the same thing, and because they're freshmen summer, most likely they're going to come back. Their sophomore summer, it's a little less likely, and then they probably won't.
Then that's it.
Yeah, then that's it. Forget and move on. So So hopefully we'll get to spend quite a bit more time before she heads back.
Now she's going to.
She goes to Baylor.
To Baylor. Okay.
Yes, sir. Yeah, which was a surprise. I mean, she was always a Red Raider for her whole life, and then I tell everyone the second. Honest to goodness, is true comment. The second we stepped on Baylor's campus, I told Tanya, I said, nope, there is no way she's not going here. It fit her perfectly. It's got the river through it. I mean, it's a beautiful campus. Of course, the second we stepped on campus, we nearly died of a heat stroke and humidity, and so I thought maybe that would help, but it sure didn't. So it didn't faze her a bit. So.
That's true. They do have humidity there. And
they do, yeah.
It gets up around 25-30% here, and everybody starts choking and and passing out from all of that. I can just imagine.
She went on a hike with one of her friends that is back, and she said that. She said, well, I guess Waco really helped me out because I wasn't hot at all, and they nearly died. And I'm like, oh, well, great.
Get
Hot's
acclimated.
Still hot, so drink water.
Lots of it. That's right.
Yeah.
So what's she majoring in?
Right now she is constitutional law. So she wants to be a lawyer to focus on constitutional law. We'll see. Hopefully, if she stays that path, great. We all know how that goes. Sometimes they get in that.
Yeah. Well, we kind of, for the fireworks display in Artesia, I did a lead up of some content prior to the fireworks show, and one of the things that we found last year or maybe 2 years ago, and that we repeated it, was the reading of the Declaration of Independence.
Right.
And most folks are somewhat familiar with the first few passages of the Declaration of Independence, but I don't know how many people have actually taken the time to read the whole thing.
Yeah.
Some interesting stuff in there.
Yes, yeah.
The colonies were not real happy with the British at that time.
Right. Well, and it's super interesting because you see everything happening out in the political world in America right now, and obviously you have the Supreme Court making quite a few decisions lately, and it's so interesting to watch how people really do they understand the Bill of Rights, the Constitution, or not, and apparently not is your big answer, because you have all these crazy ideas out there, and I really wish folks would go ahead and open that document up and understand it.
Right.
Like you said, the colonies weren't entirely excited about but they weren't entirely excited about the Constitution at the time, right? I mean, it took a couple amendments to make them happy, to make sure they kept their own rights, and that's been huge. And we talk about that a lot in the commission. We haven't had a lot of talk on that in the county or the city yet, but that's what we're all fighting for. You want state rights. You want your state to make those decisions because it's closer to home, closer to local, and now, of course, the cities and counties and schools are all fighting for even more local control. And I think if folks would read that, understand that, and actually try to apply it, it would be a much more interesting world, and you might have a little less of this craziness out there if they kind of understood what was going on.
Yeah, so constitutional law would be a great thing to learn, because then she could sit down with Ron Perlman and Katy Perry and Bette Midler and Pink and all these people and say, but you have read the Constitution. You do understand what is and is not in the Constitution and all that, because that would go a long way towards kind of calming down some of this anger that people seem to have, that people are really, really upset about the Supreme Court correcting a decision
Right.
So in the case of the abortion question,
Right.
which even at the time that passed by the Supreme Court 50 years ago, people then said, you're kind of stretching it here. That's not really
Right.
what is in the Constitution.
Yeah.
And I think there's even some stuff from Ruth Bader Ginsburg, who had said that while she might have been in favor of defining that,
Right.
the way that it was done was not actually constitutional. So that would be very helpful to do that.
Yeah.
The other thing we played, the late Paul Harvey did a piece every year on what happened to the 56 men that signed the Declaration of Independence. And when you read that and you see how many of them lost their property, lost their fortunes, lost their lives, some obviously survived because many of them went on to be president and so forth, but many of them died destitute, and they were hounded by the British. They were tortured by the British. Their families were tortured by the British. He said that after that Declaration of Independence was signed, it was several weeks, if not months, before they actually made public the names of the people that signed the Declaration of Independence, because they knew the British would come after them. And I wish people would take more time, or at least that the founding of the country, that history would be more prevalent and more taught. Then maybe we wouldn't have so many confused people out there.
Well, and you're right. I mean, the Declaration of Independence is such a huge document because basically signing that was I blanked on the word I was looking for.
Well, they were
treason,
signing. It was treason. That's right.
That took a lot of guts to do, and my goodness, are we not so thankful that you had men back then that were willing to take that step to fight for the nation, because look what it's created. And you're right, those same men went on to be great leaders, helped form the Constitution, helped form the Bill of Rights. Some became presidents. I mean, it's amazing the history of how our country was founded, and the genius of those folks that did the Constitution, did the Bill of Rights, and just all that went together. And I say compromise because back to the Constitution, which was obviously later, but the will to make sure it was right and not rush through a process and not just, let's just to make it right to where it's still standing this many years later. That our history is incredible, and I wish folks understood it better, because like we were saying, I think it would help a lot of folks understand why things happen in America the way they do, and why we should be so proud of what happened.
But when you read the stories, well, we're taking these statues down, and we're getting rid of these, and we're taking these names off of schools, and well, why? Well, they had slaves. Well, yes, but you have to have perspective of the times that it was, and you have to understand the debate over slavery during the process to come up with the Declaration of Independence. And then you have to look and see how eventually it was resolved a little less than 100 years later with the Civil War.
Right.
That, how many hundreds of thousands of people were casualties in that conflict within our own country. I spent some time watching the movie Gettysburg, because that happened July 4th weekend, 1863, and 51,000 plus casualties.
Yeah, it's amazing.
In one 3-day conflict, 51,000 casualties.
Yeah.
And why did that happen? Why did that fight take place? What were they fighting for? What was it that was the motivate? Why do that?
Right.
And if you don't know that, then surely then you sit here and you look back at the founding 200 some odd years ago, and you go, well, these. Yeah, I don't know. I get very frustrated. Babylon Bee is funny. That's the parody site. You were talking about the treason,
right?
And they had one of their posts today was where is it? I wish I had it right here. British Parliament forms July 4th commission to investigate colonial insurrection.
That's pretty good. Yeah, I saw the one there. I think it was LOB that they put out, and showed the American and talking to the British. Enjoy work tomorrow. You know, and it came out on the 3rd. So
Yeah,
it's pretty funny. So.
yeah. Then here's another one. Adam and Eve claim getting kicked out of Eden was due to cancel culture. So,
But that's what, you're talking about. What you're talking about, cancel culture is man, it's, again, you're not learning history, you don't understand. But I like that a lot of these folks that were canceling culture are now being canceled because something they did in their past. I mean, any of us that, I think we can all say that we're imperfect. There's only been one perfect person ever to walk the earth, and if you're listening to the radio, it's not you. So realize we all make mistakes. We've all done things wrong, and that's not to say it's okay or anything else. But you're right. Think of the families that were divided during that war. Think of mothers losing sons losing husbands. I mean, not husbands, sons losing dads. Again, great Americans took their stand and fought for what they thought was right. And so, yeah, and America's not always been perfect, and I think we fully should understand that, embrace that, but also realize we've done everything we can to become a great nation and try to move on and do things right. And there's still people out there that are what they are, but I think overwhelming, America's an incredible place that I'm so glad that, thankfully, I get to sit in this radio station and I'm not.
Yeah, we get to have this conversation and talk about these things.
Absolutely.
And I can say things about the governor, and at the moment, I'm not under any threat of retribution.
Be careful.
So I understand that. So, well, that's great. And I just read the stories of how so many people didn't want to celebrate Independence Day because of the rights that have been taken away and all this. It's just infected their brains, and they don't really understand and appreciate what it is that they do have. And a lot of these folks are complaining about that right being taken away, and they don't look at the similar situation, whether it's guns, abortion, some of the other social standings and how we treat different things. Go to Muslim countries. Go to some other countries, and like in Great Britain, for example, the right to free speech is not actually in their culture. I mean, people speak freely in that country, but technically they don't have that right that we have in our Constitution in the country. So,
well, and it's funny because I was talking to one of my friends who I hadn't seen almost since my wedding. I think it's the last time I saw him, and we met up this summer at one of my races, and he lives in Austin, so he leans a little further left than I would at all. And but it was interesting talking to about COVID. And he said, I was all on board with everything we were doing until it affected me. And I thought that's such an interesting statement, because that's everyone nowadays. Like you said, I mean, Second Amendment doesn't, what does that really mean? Or First Amendment, what does that really mean? And you're fine with it until it affects you. And then you're like, well, you can't do that. Well, you're doing it. I mean, you're doing it here. And so, yeah, you're right. I mean, and Tanner and I my son had a conversation this weekend, because there was a little protest that we saw, and it was really small, and he got real frustrated. And I said, well, okay, well, debate it with me. And I think we need to have those conversations with the kids, because TikTok is having these conversations with them, and I don't understand that at all, and I haven't figured it out yet. But I know kids are on it, and they're getting a lot of information from that. And I think as parents, we need to make sure that as they're wanting to have that debate, and they get frustrated because, he's obviously conservative. I mean, our household is pretty conservative, and but I didn't want him just to say something silly. Silly doesn't work anymore. You need to, if you're going to have a debate, make sure you understand what you're talking about. But I don't think we're doing that. We're letting these celebrities have these random quotes, and we're letting that roll on all these social medias. And gosh, so many other folks are getting fact checked on everything, and yet they're allowed to put these crazy statements out there that you're like, well, that didn't even make sense. But these kids are running with it, and so it does fall upon us as parents really to make sure, whatever side you're on, understand, Tanya's got family that are way left, and I love talking with them because they absolutely understand their point, and we can have a good, intelligent debate. I can learn something from them. Hopefully they learn something from me. We're not going to change each other's minds, but at least if we can, and man, we're missing that because we don't force, especially the younger generation, to form a thought and tell me, okay, but explain why you're that way. Explain to me why you don't think this was a good idea. Because so-and-so. No. That's not a...
Yeah.
You need to understand why you think this overturn was good or bad. Explain it to me.
Yeah.
And make sure they have their understanding as to what it is.
Then they get all upset and mad. Well, you just don't understand racist.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
But no, you're right. The debate seems to be not being allowed to happen.
Right.
We retreat to safe spaces and don't have the conversations because words are threatening and it's like, no, that's not. It is interesting. County Commissioner John Henry is with us, and there was a county commission meeting yesterday.
There was.
You weren't there.
I was not there. No.
But we can talk about some other things
Absolutely.
going on with
We'll
the county.
talk all about the county.
So we're going to take a break.